now we're just streaming the three of us. This is normally what happens after our guests leave, and we just sit around for a couple hours after we do the recording.
Yeah, we just chat.
Yeah, the funny thing about Spooky Pretzels is I know Spooky Pretzels very well, and Spooky Pretzels is making me laugh my ass off this whole time because Spooky Pretzels may be very close by.
Is Spooky Pretzels living in your home right now?
Spooky Pretzels might be living in my home right now.
Then they know that you are. They know you are obsessed with elves, so that's fine.
Yeah,
but I do want to ask because I know in a side note that Joe, did you finish ReZero season 1?
I have not finished it yet. I got 2 episodes left.
Oh no!
And like I said, I mean, I hope something drastic changes, but he's sniveling fucking coward. That's the main
drastic changes. He just took on the friggin' whale, man. Like,
here's the thing: he was a sniveling fucking coward, and then when he took a nosedive off a cliff, I thought, oh, okay, maybe he's finally fucking turned it around, and he seemed like kind of a badass. And then I don't know what the hell happened, but he relapsed and became a sniveling fucking coward all over again. And I was like, I hate this dude. I fucking hate him.
That's when Rem.
And you don't back burner Rem, okay? Rem is best girl.
I was going to say, that's when best girl Rem came in and gave him the pep talk of all pep talks.
Yeah, but she should have also given him a slap across the face like, oh, I'm your backup plan, huh? Thanks.
She's okay. You've watched enough anime to know that sometimes the number 1 seed isn't always the best girl.
I mean, I thought about it logically. I'm like, he barely fucking knows that girl. They've had like 4 conversations. And Rem has been with him through thick and thin. She has died for him. Not that she's aware of, but she has died for him on multiple occasions. And he knows this, and he's still obsessed with the girl with the slightly pointy ears. They're not even full elf ears.
No.
I mean,
okay, so she's a half elf, and you know this. So
she's only half unbelievably awesome.
So what I was getting at is,
are we still streaming?
Yes, we're still live.
No.
This is the after party, and you know what? I also put out, if anyone's out there listening and they want to jump on the stream too, it's an open stream now. Like, we can just look. The thing is, like, we're just going to throw caution to the wind
on the stream.
We're just going to throw caution to the wind and just see what happens. What was that from the was it from that old like Comedy Central Ace and Gary? It's like sometimes you just have to not think and put it in.
I missed all of that because I was arguing with Spooky Pretzels.
Are we still? Well, you should be arguing because ReZero awesome. And
really, because
I'm drawing an angry giant lady right now.
Interestingly enough,
I was going to say, I think
the first couple of episodes of ReZero with us and was like, I don't like the main character. He seems like a bad person.
Well, that's the whole point. He's not good in the This is ReZero is not entry level anime, right? Because he's not.
I was going to ask.
He's
with
and you like Sword Art Online, so don't give me anything about the main character not being a great person. Because let's talk about Sword Art having a main character that's not likable.
But first, I was going to ask Miss H with her comment here.
What?
Because,
oh my god!
Because I think I know which part of Captain Orange is a reference to.
Mike is getting interrupted because we're having a weeb war right now. About,
I was wondering who the angry giant lady is. Like, I wonder if this is like out of Captain Orange. Because as some may know, Miss H has the Captain Orange comic, and she's got the what is that? She's got the Patreon, and I'm on the sketch tier, so she does a lot of great sketches for me. So that's been a lot of fun. But I really like following that comic. And meanwhile, I'm just like commenting out into the void here while I'm listening to you guys talk about these different animes. Oh, look, there we go. It is. She's adding pages of comic. Hey, do you guys know about Captain Orange, by the way?
I don't know it offhand. So
all right. So Captain Orange, it's Yeah, by Miss Halama here. And so what that's about is it's about this kind of like wayfaring scientist explorer / career kind of guy. And he's got his ship, the good ship, and there's a stowaway on there as well, known as Lucky Star. And so they just go on these various adventures delivering supplies, and plenty of mishaps happen along the way. It's everything from one space civilization's like paving a highway, and it turns out that like the local alien species isn't happy about that, so they kidnap some people, or the guy's given a set of seeds that are supposed to grow really fast, but in fact when people eat the fruit they grow really fast. And just lots of just great comic adventures like that. So just want to give a shout out because we've been doing a lot of stuff together, and I have really loved that comic.
No, that's awesome. I think that sounds great. Now that I'm back employed, I'm in a position to maybe start helping on Patreons again. So that's good. Now back to the main point. You were so wrong about so he starts as that's the whole point. He's got a character arc. He starts
right, but his
selfish
character arc goes back and forth. He
180 because normal
episodes.
Because people don't always make a clean shift. They have backslides.
He knows that if he dies, he's just resetting. Like,
okay, it's not.
And yet, in like episode 10, he's like, I don't want to die. I don't want to. Dude, you've died like 7 times already.
Okay, because you know that he experiences.
Maybe it hurts.
Yes, he does. He doesn't. It's not like he doesn't experience
pain. Is just weakness leaving the body. Suck it up.
You've seen that he goes through psychologically traumatic deaths. These aren't easy things either. I mean, come on.
It's just like I feel like this is like also a take on like Live, Die, Repeat, if you remember that movie.
So yeah,
which was a great movie,
which is also based on a Japanese manga. But anyway, yes, so yeah, ReZero Subaru, the main character, it's an isekai, meaning you get reincarnated into a different world, and in this case, the isekai tropes is that usually you become an OP character, like you get some super skill set, or you got something that's going to make you a god tier character in the universe you end up going to. Subaru doesn't get any power set when he goes there. At least he doesn't realize that he's got a power, but what he gets is what's called return by death, where he basically has a save point, and when he dies, he goes back and starts over from the save point. And the save point resets. So it's not a very fun power. It doesn't help him in boss battles. I see the manga or manga, right? I've always thought
I think you can pronounce it either way.
I'm pretty sure, like in Japan, it was manga. So
I'm pretty sure it's manga, but most Americans say manga, and I think either is acceptable at this point.
Yeah, and Miss H is bringing up Shield Hero, which is another the best isekais that have come out in the last umpteen years.
And I'd love to watch more Shield Hero, but season 2 is indefinitely never coming out.
It's the virus of unspecified origin has delayed it. Something fierce. But the Shield Hero is another one where they don't give him, he gets the shield, right? The other characters that isekai into the other world get, they get the spear, the bow, the sword, and they're the offensive heroes. And the Shield Hero is the defensive one, the tank, right? The one who can, do all that kind of stuff. And there's other things that happen to him to make him not have a good time. I don't want to ruin it because it's in the first episode, and I do think if you haven't watched Shield Hero, I know you can probably go online and see all sorts of content about it at this point. It's been out for a while, but it's
really good.
It is something where even in that first episode, when the plot gets set up, if you watch isekai, you think it's going to be one way, and then it just turns. And it's an awesome show, and it's got fan service, and obviously Raftalia is best girl for that show. It starts a little weird with Raftalia given when he buys her, but you can move on.
Yeah.
So and it is getting a second season, and it's in production, and it should be out this year.
Yeah, they're saying April now, I think.
I'm just really excited because Mushoku Tensei also got a second season announcement. Have you watched that one yet, Joey?
What
Jobless Reincarnation.
I have not watched Jobless Reincarnation. To respond to Mrs. H, though, I put all my points into defense. I liked it, but it was kind of flowery. It was kind of fun, and I don't feel like the stakes ever got raised enough. I enjoyed it, but what was the real threat? They just kept. There was too much winning. I got sick of the winning.
I mean, any anime tends like isekai has gone to the point where, or even most of the fantasy, there's always an OP character who's just running the show. You got to have something to kind of make it fun. I think from an OP character standpoint, I liked Overlord was always an entertaining way to do it, where he's like not having a good time being the overarching boss of the world kind of thing. I'm sure you watched Overlord.
Nope.
What? That was...
Dude, here's the thing. Isekai is, I kind of like isekai, and I've watched some isekai, but you know this. I'm a slice of life guy.
But isekai has slice of life.
You want to talk Haikyuu or Ouran High School Host Club or any of the other silly fucking slice of life animes? I'm there. I've probably watched all of them.
Are the quintessential quintuplets? I bet you watch them. Loser. I'm kidding.
I started to. I haven't.
I don't watch anime. Only the ones that I like. I'm not a weeb.
It's like, well, yeah. Anime. Look, it's not like I'm on here ranting about why we don't have season 5 of High School DxD. That would be getting deep into my weeb blind spot. So, but let's see.
Spooky Pretzels. He actually has a legit question.
I'm sure Spooky Pretzels knows why Joey writes his stories, but well, let's start. Why don't you, Mike? Why don't you answer? You start with that one, and then I'll go. What inspired you to write your story / comic? Then I'll answer, and then Joey can go last since she already knows that one anyway.
Okay, so yes, I guess for mine, like when I first conceived of the idea of Petro Patriot 15 years ago, it had nothing to do with the current story. If you guys remember like the early newgrounds.com, that's back when like they had the Assassin's Portal, and Newgrounds was just flash animations of just like the stupidest things of like, right, like Pico's Day at School, if you remember that animation where it's about him in the middle of a school shooting, except he picks up his own gun and it turns out the school shooter is like actually an alien. Just ridiculous concept like that. And so like I was looking at like making a game at the time because I was studying chemical engineering. So I created a character called Laboratory Mike, and he was just going to have this series of kind of like Jackass themed lab unsafety videos of just like him making trouble that way. And so like I had that original set of ideas. And in fact, even when I was a grad student, I even wrote like a series of like lesson plans for like a thermodynamic class, like themed around this. And that was also funny enough. That was when that was the very first appearance of Petro Patriot was in those lesson plans. So he was going to build a soda factory to make money to like be able to afford to pay for his diabolical machine to take over the world. So like he was like a classic supervillain at that point.
This is a very different Petro Patriot than the one I know.
It was a completely different Petro Patriot. This is like 10 years ago. There was no serious story, and he was just kind of like this like cartoony supervillain that's just like, I'm going to take over the world. And then there were like a series of like life events I went through, and right, a lot of growing up and stuff like that. And what's interesting is there's a character that's going to appear very minor in the comic, which is the father of the love interest, but that's actually someone I knew who went through a very bad divorce. And what's interesting was like that was when the theme of like family issues and resolving family issues, like I started to introduce that part into the story. And then what was also interesting too was that was also right around the time that I also created the Pauline Censor character. So kind of his like enduring main villain that he fights against. And that was when it went from like this like very silly, very cartoony story about a supervillain who's just like trying to like make enough money to to like actually fulfill his plans. Cause I always had that question of like, where do the villains in all these stories get the resources, to like becoming an actual story where like you have a hero cast as a villain who has to like challenge the world. And so that's the actual inspiration. Right. Like it's gone through many, many iterations since then. And I'm just getting excited. Like it's actually going to be a thing starting, most likely this summer. We're starting the artwork very soon. So
I guess that puts me up. So mine is fairly easier. I mean, I loved Calvin and Hobbes and Peanuts growing up.
yes,
I enjoyed them, and you know, I felt like we don't really, and part of it's because newspapers went away, and we don't have that kind of content coming out there. I mean, I think
the
online,
Sundays, yeah,
online there's a lot of webtoons and things like that kids go to, but it's not really, they're not traditional kind of American Sunday, like American newspaper comic style thing.
mm-hmm.
So the inspiration was, let's make some content like that. Just a regular, as Joey called it, like kind of slices, like comic strip, slice of life, comic strip, and just see. I used meme names to kind of set the backdrop. I've talked about this in interviews before and on here. It's The Adventures of Little Chad. And because it's an easy way to give a shorthand on what the character is sort of about for people who are just jumping in. Because with a comic strip, you have to remember, if you're doing something for mass consumption, serialized content isn't the most friendly for that. We're in a serialized culture where every kind of storytelling is based around, a long form kind of story. And that's what you're doing with your stuff, Mike and Joey. But mine has to be something where an individual strip could stand on its own, even if it is progressing a story. So as an example, right now we're doing I'm doing basically the longest arc continuous of my comic strips short career. I started a thing with Aunt Karen and Lil Chrissy, having a standoff for Aunt Karen to get on Chrissy's podcast. And it's going to be basically, if you look at it, it's going to be a 5-strip comic strip story arc. But each strip has to stand on its own with its own joke that is going to be viewable independent from the greater story. So that's a long way of saying I liked making the idea of making short form fun content that somebody could just pick up without any previous history and still kind of enjoy. So I was gravitated towards and worked on creating a comic strip. So that's me.
I was going to say, and I can definitely see the Calvin and Hobbes influence in the cartooning style, and as well just the quick case that, and you're right, like that culture, because in my case it was 90s, right? I remember growing up with the Saturday morning cartoons and the Sunday comics, right? And for a lot of us, I think that was our gateway into the medium, right? And then you would go and check out like the spinner racks, the stores, and you're right, a lot of that has been taken away.
It sure, I mean, it definitely has. And you've got, the content with, with comic books. When I started reading comic books, they weren't serialized for trade paperback consumption. Each monthly issue was usually a standalone issue. So even though the number count, a lot of people talk about how the number count on comic books discourages readers from buying it. Like Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man's into 900 now, and Detective Comics and Action Comics are into the thousands. But here's the thing: like when I was younger, and when most of us who are maybe are listening, who are a little older, were younger, you didn't worry about what the number on a comic book was, because you didn't worry that you were that deep into the story. Like you could pick up a Spider-Man comic
you would
and just
jump
read
in
it
from wherever. If a cover looked good, you'd jump in. If you liked it, you'd stay in. And usually a lot of the ones that were a serialized kind of like you were in the middle of a story arc, they'd give you like a quick backfill at the beginning, or they'd at least reference you back to the issues that you missed so that you could go fill in the gaps.
Oh yeah, they didn't even bother having like that summary right at the beginning. What Marvel and DC would do would be like a little strip right into a comic panel that just would have an asterisk and say, "See issue 17." You know, and that's all it would have to be, and it would be good to go. So, you know, I don't know. So that's where I kind of came from on that issue. And Joey, you're you know, you get to answer now too.
Oh, okay. Well, mine was kind of silly for the current project. My projects are kind of all over the place. I get random ideas and I decide that I'm going to write them. But for the latest one, The Keeper's Cairn, I was watching Balin's Route, which is kind of a silly YouTube video that got put out by Viva La Dirt League. They do all sorts of like, if people acted normally in like role-playing games, they have Dark Souls logic videos they put out, lots of cool stuff. But at the very end of Balin's Route, there's a throwaway line said by one of the NPCs as they're panning through the village, where he says, "The lighthouse needs a new keeper." And for some reason, that line just kind of stuck in my head. And I was like, well, what if the lighthouse keeper was like a wizard? And like, they were very specifically the people who kept lighthouses in this world that I want to build. And they used magic to maintain these fires on the lighthouse and everything. That'd be kind of cool. And from there, I thought more deeply on it. Like, okay, well, he's at a lighthouse out on an island somewhere, and he almost never leaves. So we could play with like, you know, the sense of isolation, the different struggles that someone who just kept a lighthouse in total seclusion would face. But what's the threat? And then I'm like, oh, I'll just throw Pandora's box on the island and he'll find it. And that's kind of where the story started, and I've been building it from there ever since. I'm about 50,000 words in, and yes, there's an elf in it. I introduce her in the very first chapter. She's kind of the female protagonist / partner to my main protagonist, who is Damocles Drakemore. He's the keeper of the lighthouse and kind of a master of fire magic, whereas she is more of a master of healing magic and nature magic. And they go on a grand adventure to try and figure out the mystery of this box before it kills them.
There you go. And just so you know, I'm not against elves, Joey. I think they're awesome.
I mean, elf lives matter.
All right, now the chat is still on anime, and so I think let's see.
I will say the anime that I've loved the most so far this year was Banished from the Hero's Party. I decided to live a quiet life in the country.
I do love the extensively long, and it was meant, I think, was it Ms. H who put the note, you know, the mention about the long titles. Like, we've gotten to the point where they are giving you almost paragraph long descriptions as the title of these shows, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, back in the day, it was Berserk and Slayers.
And now was it I Will Survive Using Only Potions? I think I saw that manga.
Yeah, and Uzuki-chan Wants to Hang Out. Like, that's not a title. That's a statement of purpose.
And or what
That's
is
an
it?
abstract.
What's the other one, like where I'm opening a restaurant in like another
Restaurant to Another World?
Restaurant to Another World. Like, what would be the longest time? I mean, there are still some...
Kobayashi Dragon Maid, that's a pretty good one.
Kobayashi Dragon Maid is got I do think you definitely want to watch that one subtitled, because the localization voiceover work was a little iffy on that one. But
I was gonna say now, Joey, because there is an interesting mechanic for like how crossovers get done in my story. And as soon as you said like I'm opening a restaurant in another world, like it's just getting the gears in my head turning.
Well, that's the whole point, is his restaurant opens up into another world. So like
what we need is like a Waffle House, like an intergalactic Waffle House. Like people just come in from all over the galaxy. Hey, that could be a title of like that could be a true Western anime, not that total abortion called High Guardian Spice. Like we could have a true Western anime and we could call it Intergalactic Waffle House.
Can it be Intergalactic House of Pancakes instead? I feel like they're a little.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Now, what if there was an Intergalactic Waffle House and Intergalactic? Oh, anyone seen Food Wars? So clearly they have.
I love Food Wars.
Yeah, which issue was it? What
it-
episode was that now?
I think our third episode of the podcast was a third episode, early episode.
No, eighth was
It was Waifu Wars.
All right,
That's all
so
you need to know.
we did a Waifu Wars episode, and Joey Slender Dad over there snaked me at the end because we did a random tier waifu, and in the wild card that he had started. I think your original first choice was who was your original first choice?
D-Lit from Record of Lodos War.
Yeah, it was D-Lit. And I thought I had beat you with was it, I think, did I use how heavy are the dumbbells you lift?
Yeah.
and then you snaked me at the end with me. It's like, oh,
look at this, guys. We didn't put the copyright on it fast enough. Miss H has got it now.
oh, stealing Intergalactic House of Pancakes. There
No,
you
we
go.
spoke it into being. We
Just make sure, Miss H.
Yeah.
Just make sure you put Stacy there as like one of the workers in the back. She can be the one like butchering the meat to get ready to serve.
And Damocles needs to be the shift manager. And whenever anybody uses weird powers, he goes, "That's just fucking transmutation. I'm not impressed."
So Jojo over there. So Slender Joey ended up winning that category because I had no defense against Meat as a wild card tier waifu, since she clearly could cook and has the looks.
She wears short shorts and a bikini top all day, and you'd eat steak for dinner every night.
I just said I didn't win because of that. I couldn't. So yeah, Food Wars, and then we did an episode where we had an actual chef on, and
Yes.
we made him go and look up Food Wars. We were like, you should watch this anime, because we wanted a chef to tell us if what they were actually saying in it was accurate. Because it's like, do I believe what Food Wars is telling me, that if we do these flavor combinations and cook this way? I mean, it seems well researched, right? So it was. Food Wars has actually probably been brought up a fairly good amount in terms of our podcast.
I was going to say, now, when you mentioned about whether it's well researched or not, I know there's a couple that have also included science as a part of the anime.
Oh,
I'm trying to think of
Doc Stone.
Yeah, Dr. Stone. Yeah,
I told you about that one because I was like, go watch Doc Stone, because the way they do the science breaks seems like perfect for you to get inspiration for how you wanted to do your stuff in your comic.
I know. And the one I got to be careful about, because like a big theme I want to do is like calling out various random chemicals. So like there's one. Well, actually, no, I probably shouldn't mention that part, but like it's how like Petropatria can generate glue.
You got to do it like they did it in Burn Notice. There was the one episode where he pulls this thing out of the glove box, and the other guy's like, "That's not a bomb," and he's like, "It is when you mix it with this and some other stuff," and then he throws it out the door.
Yeah, and then but the thing I got to be careful about is I got to make sure to construct it
indemnifies them.
Yeah, I got to make sure I construct it in such a way that like you can't actually reproduce some of these things, but like it still has to be accurate, because you don't want to like get yourself and all of your friends on a list. So, and some of the stuff we had up in that lab, it will definitely get you on a list.
So I
mean, let's be honest, we're probably all on one list or another at this point.
I was gonna say, like, it would be interesting if, like, as a part of like after you finish filing your tax returns, like they mail you a letter like listing all the lists that you're on. It's like an achievements list.
Yeah, I mean, so.
You know what? Like we could do that in the dystopia. Like, someone can actually look up, these are the lists you're on. Oh, and you can't get off them.
Yeah, I'm just
But
now
just so
I'm stuck on
Can
the
I
chat.
appeal it? No.
Because the chat Miss H is talking about Doc Stone, so I'm kind of thinking about it, because she's mad at the flaw in the bad guy's logic. Because Doc Stone was really good. It's got 2 seasons so far. manga and light novels are ahead. Because they live in a world like yeah. So yeah, I do think that I mean he's the bad guy for a reason, right? He's basically going through for eugenics. He wanted to, in Dockstone, if you haven't seen it, the conflict, at least over the first 2 seasons, the main conflict, aside from living in a stone age and trying to bring technology back, is the bad guy is wanting to kill all adults and only have the young people who can be trained to live the world the way it's supposed to instead of what had
Wait,
been
I'm an
determined.
adult. I don't
Yep.
like this.
Yeah, so everybody was petrified and turned to stone, and only certain people have been woken up so far. The main good character has figured out a way to depetrify everyone, but before the bad guy only wants to depetrify the people he's choosing and then destroy any adults who had all been petrified so they can't corrupt the new world.
Oh, so he's like a reverse Light Yagami.
Yeah, so it's basically he wants to bring his perfect world into creation by killing everyone who was in the old one.
Which is like, I'm just thinking in history, like that fails so horribly every single freaking time. But yeah.
Yep. And I mean, he's opposed and our lead character.
Wasn't this kind of the theme of Gattaca?
Well, I mean, I guess if you go a little, I mean, it's kind of like when we were talking about there's variations on stories. It's a little, I mean, it's
it's not a bad thing. I'm getting Gattaca vibes when Mrs. H starts talking about how it's all based on genetics. Because Gattaca was very much like, well, if you were a godchild, like if you were born through normal means, we didn't gene sequence you, we didn't do all that work to make sure you were the perfect version of you, then I think they called them invalids or something like that, and they weren't allowed to do things.
Well, I think one of the things that comes up is the people who didn't get petrified are the descendants of people who were on a space flight at the time in the International Space Station. And so everybody's coming from like, the highest tier genetics, because they all descend from like 6 astronauts, 3 men, 3 women.
I was gonna say, now this really makes me wonder because weird. Man, this is really starting to make me wonder now because I will have to go watch this because in addition to kind of like the science nerding, I'm an economics nerd also, and like this is a classic question that gets asked, which is, let's say you take 100 or even 1,000 of the absolute most intelligent, smartest scientists, right? Let's say you take 100, and then you put them onto an island that has all of the natural resources they need. How long will it take them to build the first computer chip?
Well, probably longer than you might think, because I doubt any of those guys are going to want to be scrubbing toilets or,
exactly
unclogging the shitters, things like that.
Because the thing is
let's be honest, you're an all-round nerd. You're not cool like me and Vinny. We're cool anime guys.
I mean, I know I got to be more cultured, dude.
You do, and now that Crunchyroll has finished its acquisition of Funimation, you only have to go into one place to get all of.
Oh, I already got my Crunchyroll set up. I'm a little disappointed though because they said that they had moved everything over from Funimation.
Not yet.
Yeah, Hellsing Ultimate still ain't there, and I wanted to watch it because I remember watching Hellsing way back in the day and loving it, but I don't think I've ever watched Ultimate.
I'm just gonna be honest. They moved High School DxD day one. There's a reason.
Well, of course they did.
Come on, it's the best trash anime that's ever been made, and so I stand by that assessment. Mike, it is not safe for Baptists.
I was gonna say I remember when you described it, and I agree with that assessment.
I mean, I remember you had to get the pictures from us for the waifu debate when I sent the Ria Scrimmery ones, and I was like, these are the ones I couldn't send. that you can't use, and you're like, oh
Yeah,
no.
so that was like, you can't use those or I can't win.
That's right.
Yes.
And speaking of Rias Cremery, I remember that was on Twitter at one point. People said, "Hey, like your last save image has to be your waifu," or it's like, would you marry this one? And what's funny was I looked at my recently saved files, and the most recently saved one was the video I was about to upload for the Waifu Wars debate, and the image it picked for the preview image for that file was Rias Cremery.
The algorithm knows.
It knows.
I mean, mine was Tessa, so I was good.
I mean, sorry, Rias was the top tier. Top tier wins. I know she's not an elf, but whatever.
I'm not arguing that she's anything but top tier. I'm just saying, steaks every night.
I was gonna say
she's the queen of the devil underworld. She can order a steak every night if you want that.
Yeah, but it's gonna be goat steak. Ick.
No, they live in the human world. She lives in Japan. It'll be like Wagyu or whatever the.
Not
It'll be
Wagyu.
that Kobe beef.
Yeah, Kobe. It's Kobe. Because
isn't
the Wagyu
is like the super expensive
No. So Wagyu is actually the knockoff. So what it was is that they imported a couple of the cows to the United States, and that's the Wagyu breed. And what's interesting also is even for Kobe, for it to officially be Kobe beef, it has to be raised in that I think it's called prefecture. And there's something to how they feed it, but it's not as legendary as people make it necessarily, but it's just the case that breed of cattle just has very good marbling on the fat. So
I think you need to highlight a Miss H comment right there. Not an elf. There's always cosplay. So Rias can cosplay and then bam, done. I mean, she's got magic. She can probably make the ears even functional.
Okay, continue.
I was going to say also, I know in Petro Patriot, because part of our power system is it's themed on the different sciences. So in issue 1, you will see a biohacker and then a chemist themed, and there will be other ones, but I'm only talking about issue 1 for now. And I'm thinking that could be one of the biohacking abilities. Is what if you could just give someone different styles of ears as necessary.
Well, I mean, in D&D, that's just prestidigitation. Minor illusions are very easy to do.
Yep.
Ooh, I like season, sous vide, flamethrower, steak perfection. I mean, that's not a bad idea, because then you just get the sear at the end and you've cooked it perfectly.
I was going to say,
if you're making soup, you finish it off by adding a gun.
Wow.
If you can name that anime.
Oh no.
But I was gonna say sous vide and flamethrower. I'm thinking about reverse searing right now. You bake it so that it's right at the edge of rare, medium rare, and then you throw it onto the frying pan at high temperature to get that nice crust.
That's I like to do the charcoal, because I'm a grill master, but I like to do the charcoal. Keep the coals low and slow, and then bring the steak down right on top of them at the end and get that good sear on both sides before you take it off.
There you go.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. I mean, wouldn't complain about that. Look, man, our subject matter is going all over the place. It's kind of, we did the interview section.
I mean, chat took the wheel. They're deciding.
I mean, honestly, it's Miss H right now. She just makes comments that I can't not pay attention to because they're.
But I think there's definitely a strong overlap though between the comics and anime space, and then also properly done meat, because I mean that's the real nutrition too.
That's true. I mean, I don't trust a vegan weeb.
Nah, man.
Oh my god, I want to put that. I want to put that on a T-shirt now. Don't trust a vegan weeb. Yes, H, let's make some artwork for that. Yeah, let's get that out there. That sounds like a good. Can you sketch up some fun stuff for that?
I was just thinking about this. when you mentioned that, because like you saw, I think that like fan piece that I did where I worked with Voxmoth to do was that right Grace as the political officer trying to offer Carly Vanders the Soylon sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny is Soylon is actually not vegan. It's made of deepest lore is all I'm gonna say.
I mean, I'm just thinking of a T-shirt with carnivore on it holding a giant T-bone steak, and then the quote down below it: "Never trust a vegan weeb."
There you go. But I was gonna say I was thinking about it on the other side of like Grace is like offering that sandwich, and it's like, don't do it, man. Don't do it.
No. No.
That one is hilarious. L9. I've got to see. I've got to see what is this pencil that Miss H has posted.
Yeah, I'm on the Twitter. It looks like Angry Giant Lady.
Yeah, I think we're all moving in that direction right now.
Ninja. It looks like as a ninja star. No, is that?
Yeah, she looks that giant lady looks angry. I should probably I should screen share that right now.
Yeah, let's throw that up on the screen.
Yeah, where's my screen sharing ability without crashing my computer? Because like, there's a certain way I can do it that crashes the machine. So let's see here.
Yeah, I think I am precluded from chat because I have not signed up for an account. So
I gotta share the.
But I don't want to do anything because I'm worried it'll just boot me out of the channel.
Wait, well, I'm chatting through YouTube. I have it open in another tab.
Yeah, there we go. And for some reason, I'm still dual screen, even though I'm not. All right.
I like yeah. There we go. We got the dual screen, and there it is. Yeah.
Yep. So.
Oh, screenception.
That's right. So, yep, there is the giant lady. But yeah, that's that picture was taken from my wedding. That's now a kids park, that area. Because we went back there for our 10th anniversary.
Is the tree still there at least?
The tree is gone, sadly.
What?
It's like a little playground.
I mean, that was a beautiful whole tree. Like they took it out for a playground.
Yeah, no, it's like a special needs playground. It's very nice, but yeah, like that whole park is completely different now.
Suddenly I could really go for like a mug full of pretzels. Oh, I have pretzels here.
Did they come spookily?
Yes.
No, I buy those giant barrels of Utz sourdough pretzels, and I keep one by my desk for when I'm at work because it's something I can just munch on.
There you go.
So the takeaway of the night is the don't trust a vegan weeb. That's a good one.
Yeah, we need to like get some actual artwork done for that. And you're right, like there's two ways we can do that. We can do either like I've got the image of like carnivore with like the goat over his shoulder, or just him with the T-bone. Or we can do like the very questionable vegan looking product.
I think oh, it's making me laugh just thinking about it.
Don't trust a vegan weeb. I mean, we have so many great ideas that come out of this. We've got the Zero's Journey. We've got Not Safe for Baptists. We've got Don't Trust a Vegan Weeb. Like, what else have we gotten so far?
Well, I like Not Safe for Baptists is a good one. I mean, that should really be a big flashing warning light anytime we start talking about anime, because Baptists and fan service probably don't go together fully.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the case of like if you're trying to be a particular kind of athlete, like at some point you have to like stop eating donuts. Is the way we look at it. So,
well, if you're gonna be a weeb, you might have to make some compromises. No, I'm not gonna.
We're all trying to optimize for something. No, I know what you mean, man. And And so at some point, maybe I'll even like do a video explaining like if we like try to get serious about that. But it's just the idea of like we all know the phrase "not safe for work" and like what that means. And it's the idea like there is like this like another range or space that's like it doesn't meet not safe for work, but it's kind of like it's like think a little bit before bringing it up, and like and we're just kind of like mentioning that space, right? And we're just trying to do it in a way that's funny and also kind of like picks on like the like 90s like social conservative stereotype.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that one. I think that one came out of our waifu episode, right?
I think it was because I was like trying to be self-deprecating there.
Yeah, because
not to mention I stepped on so many verbal landmines on that one.
Oh yeah, that was a good episode. We might have to have another waifu rating tournament.
There we go. I was gonna say maybe we can do it also after.
Oh, we're in March, man. We should do March Madness, right?
March Madness.
But
I was also
the Sweet 16 of waifus.
Dub.
I was gonna say too, and then also I've been working with John Pedraws to do a bunch of character art. Now what's funny is issue 1 has a lot of male characters. Like I'd say 8 out of 10 of the characters that get introduced are male. But batch 2 is a bunch of female characters, and we can determine whether or not like my character design meets a sufficiently broad appeal, because there's one character in particular we're talking about like, hey, like should this character be a short stack versus like like normal height and stuff like that. And we were just talking like, okay, what's going to make all the female characters like more fun and attractive? So
I mean, you got to have both, though. The best animes still have male characters that girls want to watch too. I mean,
yeah,
sometimes you even get Joey watching the Oran Host Club, which is.
I mean, the Oran Host Club is phenomenal. You cannot argue that it is a fantastic anime.
It's probably the only successful reverse harem one I've seen.
I was gonna say, because that's the husbando, right? Instead of the waifu.
Well, it's a reverse harem, so it's a girl with guys instead of like a guy collecting girls. I mean, if you boil it down to the essential plot, that's what it's about. Although there's a funny thing, like if I remember right, she has to start working there because she owes money or something.
Yeah, she breaks one of their vases that's worth like 300 million yen or some crap, and they argue at that point that she has to start working there as a host to pay off her debt.
Yeah. Oh, we got a vote for short. There you go.
Yeah, I vote for short. And for those wondering which character this is in particular, so so inside of Petro Patriot, there are of course kind of like the two main female characters, Stacy and Grace. They're the daughters of the main villain, Pauline Censor, and they have various thoughts about how they're going to go about that. But yeah, Grace has a best friend, Mary Carver, and like I've already cast her to be like a little bit shorter than Grace, and like we're just trying to determine like how we want to present that.
Ooh, I vote short stack with elf ears and a cattail.
I'm gonna talk with you after the stream. I'm gonna talk with you after the stream. Did you just say ginger?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, Mary has red hair. In fact,
I know. I remember the picture of Mary, and I was like, "Ooh, Mary might be my best girl in this series."
All right. Yeah. So we'll need to. So when I get to the point that I do like the batch 2 images, yeah, we'll definitely have to do an episode on that. Now that may not be for at least like a month or 2 months, but we will definitely.
I'm just gonna say, go to anime and go to any harem style ecchi or whatever, and you're gonna see you have to include like brunette, blue-haired girl, red-haired girl, green-haired girl.
It's like ice cream. There should be a variety of flavors available.
Yeah, but redheads are usually top tier.
Yeah, because I will say, like, because my story is natural hair, but yes, you need to have all the different all the different hair colors, all the different styles. And then even on the male side, we've got, very smart guys, very strong guys. And same thing for the girls. There's cute, and then there's also like very athletic and so on and so forth. But who was it? Oh yeah,
there is a thriving demographic for redheads because ginger side is a thing right now.
Yeah, but in the indie space, and I know who Miss H is talking about. In the indie space, it's making a comeback. It's like the endangered species habitat.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, how do you identify a value? Like when I talked about my comic strip, I leaned into meme names and designs to do it. Like if you're making an indie comic and you make the lead female like an attractive redhead, you're kind of leaning into what is being replaced in a lot of other media content. So it's a nice shorthand way to do it. And it's on a comic book level, it works really well. The colors pop, right? So that's one of the things people don't think about when they're, like there's a reason that kind of thing, works out, because the colors on the page in terms of art, the red hair usually pops a lot better than some of the other, colors on there. It gives a good contrast.
Well, that's kind of why blue hair became a thing in anime in the first place. Back in the day, blue hair was the substitute color for people with black hair because just doing black hair looked weird on the line art.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's funny, like the Phantom, which was one of the first pulp comic strip heroes. The reason he's got a purple outfit isn't because it was meant to be purple. It's because of the ink they used. I think it was supposed to be gray, but it had the color bled because it was newsprint or something like that, and it sort of looked purple, and it just got adopted as his color scheme.
And then also like it sticks out a lot too, I guess. But now these are all good points. And then the other thing I was thinking about too, of course, if you remember when we had Tim Lim and Mark Pellegrini on, that was one of the points they made about that. And by the way, for those who didn't see that episode, there was a huge thing because we ask every creator, what's one thing that you changed last minute? And one of them was apparently Misha was not slated to be an attractive girl. Like they were originally going to make an unattractive version of Misha. And you can kind of see that a little bit in issue 1 because she looks a little bit stocky almost. And then they came to the conclusion, it's like, like in anime, manga, and in classic comics, like you don't arbitrarily add unattractive people in this medium. And they're like, no, we can't do that. And so that's the same thing for our character design. It's like you have to make very attractive characters. Either people identify with them or it pulls people in more. So like definitely we're gonna do that with our cast.
Yeah, you want your characters to be, people like aspirational entertainment. It escapes entertainment. Nobody was doing cave art of fat people.
Yeah, and I think, and there's actually, I think, a reason for it too. And this is just, I think about this as a creator, right? You have, in order to understand, like, in order to make choices about not only your stories, but even in the whole world of like, who am I relative to others? What direction can I go? Which direction should I go? It starts with like, you look around and you look at all the people around you, and then you kind of gauge like where you are in that range, right? It's like, is there something like in the various hierarchies of qualities out there that I'm good at? Is there something I'm bad at? Right? You look out and observe. And then this is one of the weird things about a lot of modern entertainment is they're like, we want to just like destroy the range of things you can observe. Like we don't want to have like really good or really evil. Like we just want to like mix everything, turn everything into this like amorphous average that looks just like our perceived audience. And because of that, like they're basically just saying a big nothing. Like we're just giving people back our own creator team. Like it's the creator just saying like, I'm just going to hold up a mirror and everything's just going to be myself. And the thing is, like, you can't go
propaganda.
anywhere
I
from
mean,
that.
That's what you're getting at this point. You're getting propaganda. No longer are they trying to tell you a story. They're trying to implant in you a message.
And in
if
this
you
case,
ever
the
watch
message is
propaganda
like,
videos, you watch those and you're like, I know this is propaganda, and it completely distracts you from whatever story might be being told.
oh, but it's even more than that, because I think of, like, I remember once I even like watched like some old Chinese propaganda, like actual comedy propaganda. And the thing is, even that had some element of aspiration to it, because it was like, oh, like, we're going to create this super idealized citizen, and they're like, like, it's their version of like do better. But in this case, it's almost like, like, don't change, don't improve yourself, don't fix the problems in your life. Like, just sit there and be nothing. Like that, like, to me, like, that's the current message that gets put out there.
Okay, complete sidetrack. I'm watching the chat, and I see that Superman used to wear glasses and no one knew who he was. And for some reason, don't ask me how my train of thought ended up at this station, but if you remember X-Men, Cyclops used to wear the little red, like, ruby glasses.
Ruby quartz. They were
ruby
ruby
quartz
quartz glasses. Yeah.
Oh, and I'll be right back.
I always wanted to know, did he ever have an issue where, like, one of the screws came loose on the glasses and a lens popped out, and how many people died as a result?
No, those things were like military grade. They were designed to look like the military-ish standard issue glasses. Those things weren't.
I'm just saying that could have been a fun episode.
I mean, well, the idea of like he wears them when he wears glasses when he's sleeping, because in the middle of the night, if you wake up and you open your eyes, boom, your roof's gone. Like, so
yeah, I have to imagine at some point he learned to wake up without opening his eyes, which is pretty impressive in and of itself.
Yeah, or he's got to have some other kind of system to do that. I mean, it's not like he's just laying in the bed, looking at a picture of Wolverine and Jean crying lovingly or something like that, like Wolverine. Did I show you Hasbro has put out like a 90s, they're doing a line of like the X-Men 92 characters action figure wise. And in the Wolverine one, they're including the picture of Jean and Scott, so that you can, have Wolverine holding the picture longingly.
Weird.
I mean, it's funny. It's a meme, right? You've seen the meme, right? Like Wolverine got his hand on the picture.
I've seen the meme, yeah.
So you can make the meme with the action figure. I just thought it was a fun touch. I was like, oh, somebody there has a sense of humor. So it's
all right.
It's funny.
And I'm back.
You missed my sidetrack vamp about the Wolverine and X-Men Legends line action figure from the 92 X-Men animated series, where they included the Cyclops and Jean photo as part of the action figure.
Oh, that's good.
Let's see. Oh, there it is. Hasbro Pulse Marvel Legends. Let's see. Am I allowed to can I screen share with this?
Let's see. Yeah, are you able to try it?
It says share down at the bottom.
Share screen. Don't use two monitor. Okay. Share screen. Window, Chrome tab. Sure. All right. Are you guys seeing it?
Let's see. Not yet.
Yeah, I don't see anything.
View tab on sharing tab to StreamYard. No, nothing.
Oh wait, no. Here we go. Add to stream. There we go.
There you go. Right there. You see the little what
comes. He really does have a full on.
Oh wait, that meme, the one where he's like in the bed looking at the image.
Yep.
I was gonna say, I'm surprised it doesn't come with a bed and a nightstand.
Hold on, let me see. Okay. Look,
oh my god, the picture comes out of the frame.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's good. That's really good.
I was just like, I saw that and I couldn't believe that they actually did that. And you can see what's really cool is you see how they did the shading on the action figure to make it look like a cell shaded, cartoon. Which I thought, I mean, I think there is nice touches in the figure where you can see how they were doing it to look very cartoony. But what got me, of course, was just like, the idea that they put that picture in with as one of the add-ons for the action figure. I was like, oh, that is hilarious.
Oh man. I was gonna say, obviously somebody was like spending time on the internet for that one, and they got a win.
I mean, you got to figure that the people designing toys for Hasbro are probably on the internets and seeing this.
I was going to say,
be careful saying they're fans, because we're seeing plenty of non-fans get into these franchises lately.
I was going to say the activists who are just there to say, like, I'm just here to create change in the world. And by setting this whole thing on fire, I've created a lot of changes.
The one I always hate is the creator who gets into the project and then goes, I could never relate to this character as a kid because he didn't look like me, and now we have one that looks like me. It's like, then you weren't a fan. You just openly said, I wasn't a fan of this character, but now that I'm on the project, I claim to be.
And I was going to say, like, that's also I think it's also a disingenuous form of argumentation too, because relating is
it's
not
a convenient way to self-insert, is what it is.
Yeah, or it's just a way to like kind of like secretly like exactly like sledgehammer or force the story a certain direction, because it's saying like, oh, people won't relate unless they match specific characteristics, because we said that's what relating is. It's like, no, relating is in the sense of whatever struggle you have in your life is something you can see reflected in that other character, and therefore like you can identify and commiserate with or identify with that character's struggle. And what's interesting is actually someone's been reaching out to me on DMs recently. They had a very cool story idea, and we were talking about, okay, I've got the character, I've got kind of like some high level stuff, but like, how can we make an interesting story? And it's like, well, and we were talking about like, different conflicts they may have. And one of them might be that they're going to make a choice, and that choice will cause them to gain something, but at the cost of what they really want, right? And the thing is that I will go ahead and tell you that character looks nothing like me, but this idea of, hey, like I was pursuing one thing because I thought I wanted it so much, and then I found out that's not what I wanted at all, because right, the whole package wasn't as nice as I thought. Right, that's a very relatable story. Or I'll tell you what, like, I really like Common America. Obviously, like, I'm not from Indiana, and I'm not a redheaded female or a fashion designer. But the idea of a creator that doesn't quite know who they are, and they think they need to do things one way, and they're trying to figure out like what it is they really need to do and how to balance those relationships, like that's a very relatable story.
Okay, I'm just gonna answer Mrs. H's question on this. She asks, define self-insert. Where's the line drawn? And the line, if you're coming in on a project and this character already exists and has a personality and lore behind them, then the line is drawn at, are you changing the character to fit the one you want to see? And for anything else where it's a new character, see I Am Not Starfire, and then go look up the creator of I Am Not Starfire, and that's too far even for a new IP.
Yes.
I mean, you could go with what Gabby Rivera did with America Chavez. You could do Mariko Tamaki with I Am Not Starfire. You could point out Kathleen Kennedy with Ray. I think so you're right. as a creator, you usually, my comic strip, I put a lot of my own life in as inspiration for the stuff that happens. The way little Chad talks is the way my son talks. I do things like that.
And that's the thing, though. As a creator, you have to know more people than yourself. Like, a lot of my characters, they're based on people I know, but those people aren't me.
Yeah, and that's you want your characters to be organic and just react based on the situation. What you don't want is to make. I think sometimes when you do self-inserts, one of the things that makes self-insert characters the biggest problem is they become idealized, perfect versions of your self-insert. Like you want, like just how you want to do things. It does make me wonder about Mariko Tamaki because with I Am Not Starfire, she's I think the self-insert is autobiographical, and what makes it fun for her is the end where the kid gets superpowers and still gets to be a jerk. Didn't learn any lessons, but now gets to be a superpowered version of the bad person they were.
Or a mutant girl walks into a fucking store and stabs the cashier in the eye, and then they go, "You're gonna join the X-Men."
No. The character was already in the X-Men.
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
Even better. Even better.
No, that character was already living on Krakoa, which was the X-Men's mutant alive island. And that character teleported to that grocery store because they found a plastic bag that had washed up with like a turtle and the plastic bag had killed the turtle. Imagine like
and then she
whatever
looked down the beach, and at the other end there was nothing but trash and a lone American Indian with one single tear sliding down his cheek.
Not even, but so what's interesting is like the idea of that is basically like whatever major grocery store chain is in your area, the character just teleports in, walks into the grocery store, and just totally stabs the cashier in the neck. Like this,
then the
cashier wasn't like the owner of the company. The cashier didn't manufacture the plastic bags that the company decided to use, and this person kills that random cashier.
Hi, welcome to Walmart. Oh my god.
Yep.
Here's the other part of that too, which is the thing is you could still have a story where that happens, but what then would make it organic is they're not praised for it afterwards. Like that was also the weird thing with I Am Not Starfire. It's like a bad person does not grow, and yet they're praised like they're a good person, right? Like
you're
that's
that's
the part where
teenager that's mean to everyone, and you get praised for it.
Exactly.
And with the I'm Not Starfire, one of the things that makes the self-insert bad is because you can see the parts where Mariko Tamaki was trying to basically rectify her own life issues.
Well, and like, the character looks like her. That's the crazy
exactly
part.
Yeah, well it's not the crazy part. She designed it to look like her, but the Mariko Tamaki's self-insert I Am Not Starfire character gets the super attractive popular girl, falls in love with her for even though she's still a jerk, and it hasn't really done anything to warrant that kind of affection or return of affection. And then she's a jerk to her mother, and the mother is nothing but loving towards her the entire time, and so she doesn't have to change, and then it gets validated. Like, it's what makes a self-insert character. I think I've gotten to the point where I wanted to make it's the constant validation that has to get given to a self-insert character that makes them bad characters. At no point when it's a really bad self-insert do they challenge or question or fail. Self-insert characters done that are a problem are because they are constantly put in there, and the author validates their self-insert character constantly. It's the constant validation that ends up ruining the story and that whole process. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, because at that point it really does. It gets inorganic, and again, like it is truly something you can't relate to because you're being told you have to like this person when you really don't have a reason to, right? Like the reason a character is likable normally is because there's something about them that actually adds back to you, right? Like they do something, they grow somehow, even if they're a jerk, like they do it in such a way that it's at least entertaining and like it corresponds to some kind of reality. And I do know for my own writing right now, and I guess I can mention, by the way, at petropatriot.com, it will take you to a landing page, and on that landing page is a single line form, which is just if you put in your email, you will get the ash can, by the way. That one of the things in there is that I'll tell you, like, all of the major characters are related to somebody I know. And what happened was some of them started out almost as like 1-for-1 copies of people I know. And then and I can think of one in particular, like even the car that they drive was like tied to somebody I knew, right? But the thing was, like, as those characters developed,
I'll be looking for that character driving a Toyota minivan.
it was a Ford Crown Victoria.
Oh damn, it's not me.
But now it's a Ford F-150. And only sometimes. So but what happened was, even though like some of these people that I'm thinking of are like very larger than life people in real life, you know, that's why I wanted to use them as sources for characters. By the time it was done, I would say like none of these are more than, say, like 40% of like the person I'm referencing, right? And that's because once I started looking like what is the story's theme, but also what is this character's theme, there are certain things the characters need to do that are different from the source people, but the source people can still be an inspiration in the sense of, you know, like, hey, like this is kind of how they would talk, or, you know, here are some little backstory pieces I can use to fill in. Right. You know, Petro Patriot's tied a little bit to myself because obviously like it's a guy who studied chemistry and like he's going to have that type of knowledge. And it goes back to like when I wanted to be Laboratory Mike and wanted to do this, you know, this science show stuff like that. That part of it factors in.
Yeah, but I've seen a lot of the work you've put in, and Petro is a lot dumber and sillier than you in a lot of ways.
Yes, because then I said, but the thing is like you're like I'm a pretty cautious person, and I try to like consider other people a decent amount because I had to grow in that sense. But the thing is like that's not entertaining. So I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna make this guy do idiotic things. I'm gonna make him make very painful mistakes. And also I'm going to make him like incredibly proud on like really specific topics or things where it's like, I would never say this. And then it's like, oh yeah, he's totally going to just like say it with no filter. And the reason why is because like the character's not going to be interesting if you don't add those things, or if you don't subtract certain things that you would do.
Yeah, I agree with you, Vinny, on the self-inserts really only become obvious in bad stories. And I think if you're a good storyteller and you make good characters, at first with a lot of my main characters especially, there's a little bit of that self-insert, but they should in short order kind of take on their own personality that is separate from yours, and you as the writer can see that they are a different person. Or if they are solely based on you and you really are building them very closely aligned to your own personality, the reader shouldn't pick up on that quickly and easily.
One of the ones that we're most familiar with that could be really looked at as a self-insert would be Luke in the first Star Wars movie. George Lucas put a lot of elements of his personal, you know, life and, you know, taste into Luke. I mean, you know, when he was talking about being a Bush pilot, that was kind of a reference to him being like a guy who worked on cars. I mean, I guess the more autobiographical self-insert character for George Lucas would be American Graffiti, but not as many people nowadays have seen that one, so it's a little harder to use it as an example. But it's perfectly normal to have traits and, you know, experiences self-inserted into your work. What the reason it becomes such a negative is because people only really notice self-inserts when they become that idealized, no validation, bad storytelling ones. And so that's why it gets used as an insult. I think
and because if it's you, there is that desire to even if your character does something wrong, because you feel as though the character is you, there's a desire to justify their behavior. And that's when your character starts to become infallible. And,
yes,
and you start to turn them into a Mary Sue.
yes, and that's also when we had our Literature Devil episode, because we had that whole discussion on Mary Sue's. And the thing is like, and it's not just your main character or your quote unquote like self-insert where you're putting a lot of yourself into a character. Sometimes it's even some of the other characters that is, and this is especially the case for love interests, right? That, and I'll tell you, like, this is actually one of the challenges I've had is, right, something I know in advance is certain characters, like, do they start out as heroes or villains? And if they start out that way, do they end that way? And if they end a different way, like, I need to make sure, like, are they doing something redeemable or irredeemable along the way, right? Like, and if they,
Like
and if
killing
someone,
a bunch of younglings.
yeah, because then if that happens, is it going to be the case that they're going to somehow repent, become remorseful to the point possibly of PTSD? Is it because they were so deceived or something else? And because if you don't address those questions, you're right. Like, that's one of the kind of like moral discontinuities in Star Wars was Anakin killing all those kids, but yet somehow as Darth Vader, who could have only been worse, is now somehow redeemable at the end of episode 6.
I still think that once they added the prequels where they showed him killing the kids, it was abridged. Like, it really made the redemption harder to deal with. I mean, you got the concept that, you know, everybody can seek redemption if they're truly, you know, in search of it. You can, you know, forgiveness is available, and that's a good thing. But there's some stuff that you never want to have your character do something that they can't come back from. And putting on screen Anakin lighting up the lightsaber with that little kid there and with that horror in his face is a bad choice from George Lucas.
I think the unfortunate fact of the matter is the discontinuity in the presentation is what kills that. Because if at the end of episode 6, where, you know, Vader is sitting there dying and everything, and it's just it's a shit situation, if there was some dialogue there where he reflected on the horrible things he'd done and you know, remarked at how, you know, this act that he just did, yes, he's dying for it, but at least it was something he could do to atone for, you know, all his sins of the past. It would have softened the blow and maybe rebuilt that bridge a little for you. But because the prequel trilogy came after the original trilogy, well, they didn't know to put that in there at the time.
Yes. And this is, and you're right. And this is one of the interesting things about continuity, right? Like, continuity is not just do the events line up, but it's also like, and you're right, in a moral sense.
Well, in a moral sense, how are we not all talking about? I've mentioned it so many times. Padme being like, I'm totally cool with you killing all the Tusken Raiders, including the women and the children. Let's get married now. I mean, but, you know, once he, you know, you turned on the Jedi, I can't follow now. Where you're going?
She could fix him, and then he ended up choking her to death. That's about how those usually go, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can fix him has been, or I can fix her. That always goes in a.
I mean, it's really.
Wait, JoJo, is that true?
It was that in probably one of the tie-in comics that they announced.
Yeah, is that extended universe stuff? I've never heard that before.
I don't know. That's really brilliant. That I don't feel like George Lucas came up with that. You know, sometimes, you know, it was probably in the book version. The novelizations usually tried to clean up George's messes a lot better. So
yeah. Okay, and yeah, I know. Also, yeah, we're coming up on
them before the bad guys could get to him. It was mercy killings.
That's right.
Yep, it sounds like it was in one of the books. Yep. So yeah, so writers of the Star Wars novelization adaptations cleaning up George Lucas' messes since 1976 because the Star Wars book novelization came out before the movie. So it was actually predates Star Wars coming out in the theater.
All right, very cool. Well, so guys, here looking at the clock now. We've been going for 2 hours.
That's good stuff. We got to get those view counts up to eventually, maybe, possibly get monetized, maybe someday.
Yeah. So, guys,
I'm having a lot of fun with it. I love the fact that we can like kind of do this live and talk with chat now. This is really cool.
We'll do it live. We'll do it live.
From now
That's
on,
right.
Let's do it live.
That's right. And yeah, man, I had a really good time with this, and definitely, for everyone watching, of course, like and subscribe and tell people about it, because like the more questions, more interactions we get, the better. And it'll also be interesting too. Like we may like make this a part of our format. Like we start off with the interview section, go for about an hour, and then we can just kind of like have this like open mic moment where we're talking and people are asking questions. And hey, I would even be glad to like have other people come on the stream at this phase.
No,
right? Just fill it up with some surprises. So
here we go. I mean, JoJo's good on the chat. We can have him, Miss Sage. We can have a council of fans.
Well, speaking of that, at some point, JoJo, if you're interested, you should actually like come on as one of the creators to interview, because you've done a lot of great artwork for us. So
there you go. We're sideways, just like trying to get you into it. Guilt. But,
that's right. No pressure, dude. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, at least for the stream, we'll go ahead and we'll probably start ramping it down here. And because I know, it's 10 o'clock here on the East Coast. So,
all right.
And a lot of us have work tomorrow.
And JoJo, I do agree. Dark Empire and Dark Empire 2 are great.
Yep.
So
we'll close it on this.
Yep. So, I think
hopefully we'll see everybody next week. This was cool.
All right.
Hello. Bye. Okay, bye.
Bye. All right. See you guys next week. It'll be 8 o'clock Tuesdays, Eastern time.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.